the two things together, it seems fairly obvious that the software problem is what's causing the fuel pressure problem. But that's all we've heard from the Sauber team, and it was so obvious on that car Massa was driving that surely they must have been able to resolve it by now.
Bernd Mayländer will be driving the safety car, the pace car, at the start of this race, as we're getting all prepared now for the start of the warm-up lap and then the race start itself. The Ferraris looking to continue their successful run here in Australia. They have won on the last 3 occasions, Eddie Irvine in 1999 and Michael Schumacher for the past 2 years. Today it is Rubens Barrichello who will lead the Ferraris at the start of this race, but for how long? Will he let Michael Schumacher through? I can't see that happening in the early stages at least, but Michael will want to earn the lead of this race for himself. Behind them, they'll be watching out for the Williams BMWs. Let's take another look at the track layout once again here. We've got those sectors to look for, the intermediate sections that give us a good idea as to when people are on a quick lap. The lap record at the moment is Michael Schumacher's, a 1 minute 28.214, but we've seen an improvement in times this weekend. That is likely to go today.
Well, it will do, but it's again going to be very weather dependent. Well, there's a bit of a, Montoya still standing talking to Gerhard Berger. I'd love to know what they were discussing. The smile on Gerhard's face gives me a clue. But Montoya, just 3 minutes before he's even into his car.
No, he seems to be extremely relaxed. Interesting discussion going on.
Patrick saying, go on, you've got a day job to do, get into your car. But interesting, Adrian Newey talking to Patrick Head and Mario Illen from the Mercedes-Benz team. And of course Adrian Newey worked with Patrick Head in the Williams team some years ago before he moved on to the McLaren team.
And meanwhile, Michael Schumacher just taking a little sip to get himself refreshed before the start of this Grand Prix. The lower temperatures, of course, will reduce the dehydration that they suffer from throughout the Grand Prix distance. One of the fittest drivers, probably the fittest driver in Formula One, Michael Schumacher, takes his training so seriously. Let's take another quick look at the lineup for today's grid then. Rubens Barrichello on pole position, the 4th of his career. Michael Schumacher, winner here for the last 2 years in a row. Ralf Schumacher, his best qualifying performance here in Australia. David Coulthard, a former winner around this circuit, and his new teammate Kimi Räikkönen lining up 5th. Juan Pablo Montoya starting his 2nd season in Formula One. Jarno Trulli for Renault in 7th and Giancarlo Fisichella. They've swapped teams, those two. They're both on the 4th row. Ahead of Felipe Massa and Nick Heidfeld driving for Sauber. Another strong performance from the Swiss Sauber team. And then behind those two, we could see the cars of Button and Olivier Panis. Then it's Jacques Villeneuve, Mika Salo for Toyota, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrows, Alan McNish, the 2nd Toyota, Enrique Bernaldi and Mark Webber, the Australian, making his debut this weekend. Eddie Irvine back in 19th place ahead of teammate Pedro de la Rosa. Alex Young and Takuma Sato bringing up the rear.
There's a little bit of a panic going on with Montoya and the team that can't find the seat belts, and the team are going to have to clear off. They should have been off. All remaining personnel leave the grid at 1 minute. They've got 30 seconds to get that job done, or else Montoya is going to be in a problem.
Well, this is dramatic stuff indeed, and perhaps it wasn't just nonchalance that meant he wasn't in the car a little while ago. There must have been some sort of problem. Patrick having a quick chat.
15 seconds to go.
And everybody very aware that they've got to get him safely strapped in and sorted. Tyre blankets are coming off now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They should all be getting off the grid now.
Well,
come on, get the car on the ground if you're going to do that. We've got 1 minute. Get it on the ground, get the starter in. Get the starter in and start it.
This is reminiscent of Belgium Grand Prix last year, where Ralf Schumacher's car was left up in the stands.
Okay, down on the ground. Down on the ground.
well,
That was a very, very close call.
you could see Montoya smiling there. Perhaps he enjoyed that a little bit, a bit of a buzz, just to get ready for the start of this race. Right, we are all prepared now then for the final formation lap before the start of the Grand Prix. And you think he might have been angry. He was angry yesterday when they sent him out in qualifying when it was raining.
Flag.
Yes, we've got somebody who's got a problem down there, the midsection of the grid. And we'll try and take a look and see who that is. 1, 2, We'll spot that in just a moment.
I think
As
it's one of
they
the Arrows. It might be Frentzen, in fact.
Wait till all the cars go and let's
It is Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the Arrows. He'll have to wait until the entire field goes past, and also Eddie Irvine slow away as well. And Frentzen, Bernoldi, I beg your pardon.
So the team will now have an opportunity to
Both Arrows. Well, it was Frentzen, and but Bernoldi was caught behind Frentzen. He couldn't move because all the other cars were coming past.
First race of the season often throws up things like this.
go on.
Let's try and listen on the radio. Unexpected problems at the start of the season.
Get the red set behind.
We've seen it before here in Australia. And dear oh dear, they still haven't got those two Arrows cars off the grid. This is really remarkable. Reminds you of that time we talked about earlier when the two Stewarts were in trouble on the grid. It's not quite as dramatic. There aren't flames coming out of the backs of the car. But nonetheless, it's not a very good start for Arrows, and Tom Walkinshaw won't be too impressed about that. Now,
Frentzen's car is going to be being pulled off onto the. I don't think they can take. I think this is going to have to be an aborted start.
Out of the car to the T car.
in fact, yes, we could hear them calling Heinz-Harald to get out of that car and get into the spare car. And he'll have to start that from the pit lane, obviously, as they rush to try and get these cars out of the way of the field, which is gradually making its way around this Albert Park circuit. Track temperature up to 21 degrees at the moment. The Ferraris lead them round. Barrichello, Schumacher and Ralf Schumacher, with Coulthard and Raikkonen. Everybody getting a bit of heat in the tyres, and frantic activity going on now, John, in the Arrows pit.
Yes, both Arrows are still on the side of the racetrack. And I'm just waiting to see how long it is before we see a signal from race control to say that this race, well, they got them both away, so we're not going to have a problem. But what a disaster for Tom Walkinshaw and the Arrows team. And that was all because Frentzen had a problem that then involved Bernoldi. He couldn't get out and get past because he had cars that were behind him filing past, quite rightly too.
Well, tremendous disappointment for those guys. For Heinz-Harald Frentzen, his first race for the Arrows team was due to drive for Prost, remember, but the Prost team folding before the start of the season. That freed up Frentzen, and Tom Walkinshaw snatched him and removed Verstappen. Still listening up on their radio, try and catch what's going on down there as they scrabble to get Frentzen into the spare car to start from the pit lane. Now, the Ferraris are in position. Rubens Barrichello, the Brazilian, did not win a race throughout 2001, despite being in the car that everybody said was the car of the season. Can he make amends for that here today? Ross Brawn, the master tactician, watching as we get ready for the start of this first Grand Prix of 2002. We gather that Montoya's problem was a flat battery. That's what the panic at Williams was all about. The panic at Arrows, no doubt for a different reason. Here it comes then. All of that winter testing is behind them. Now is when we truly find out how they are going to deal with 2002. The Australian Grand Prix is underway, and it's a good start from the second row with Ralf Schumacher trying to squeeze through David Coulthard, and contact! Ralf Schumacher in the air and into the gravel trap, and an Axel and into the tyre barrier as well. And Ralf Schumacher, cars all over the place. Saubers, Jordans, there's a Toyota in the middle of that, a BAR, and it is a disastrous start to the Australian Grand Prix.
Ben, I hope I didn't see this, but I just suspected that not what was going on at the front, but what was going on at the back. This is going to be...
Okay, let's get the T-car ready for Joe.
It's going to be a T-car out. We'll see the safety car out. It's going to be... has to be a restart. You cannot continue the circuit in this condition. Yellow flags certainly are out, localised yellow flags. Ralf Schumacher was challenging Rubens Barrichello. Barrichello cut from left to right, and then, of course, we saw what happened for the second race in succession here in Australia. Ralf Schumacher has been involved in a major accident. It occurred here at turn 1. Last year it was turn 3.
Well, it was David Coulthard who made a brilliant start from the second row of the grid. Ralf also made a good start, but it's Coulthard who got in front. And as the cars make their way around, of course, they are taking it easy now. But, well, problems.
Look at that.
So
carnage.
many drivers. That is remarkable. And looking on our timing and scoring system here, all the cars from 12th place onwards are stopped on the track. 11 cars are running at this one. In fact, Raikkonen's just got going again, so Raikkonen's running. 12 cars are running.
You've got Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher, Fisichella, Massa, Heidfeld, Button, Panis and McNish. They were all involved in this incident.
Now, let's take a look here, John, at what happened.
But watch Barrichello, and Ralf Schumacher goes between the two Ferraris. He out-accelerates his brother. Barrichello goes to the middle, then more to the right, then Ralf cuts back, of course. Rubens brakes. Look at, I mean, unbelievable. Ralf Schumacher was so fortunate, and he found the part of the safety runoff area with the most space. Now watch again. Schumacher goes one way, then Barrichello the other way, cuts back. Barrichello brakes. Ralf outbrakes himself, basically. Ralf missed his braking point.
Yeah, it does look that way. He went in without braking as Barrichello brakes and just ran into the back of him. And look at the carnage behind as cars just all over the place. Felipe Massa, the car nearest to our camera here, in the middle. Well, it's just you can't see for the smoke. One or two, the Jaguars managed to sneak round.
Yes, they did. Jaguars, but drive shafts, every lubrication you can imagine on the track. And look, everybody running back now to get to those single spare cars.
Well, what a dramatic start to the season. Fisichella there running back. Olivier Panis as well. It's turned into a running race rather than a Grand Prix for the moment, as everybody sprints back to get into their spare cars. But the safety car leads David Coulthard around. The laps are ticking away here at the moment, and it's Coulthard who is race leader.
Indeed it is, and it's Jarno Trulli who's in second place. I mean, really, I'm just sitting here thinking about what occurred. I could understand that happening midfield, but between two guys on the front two rows, that I have to say is just outrageous. Raikkonen, I'm sure, is the one that's going to come in for McLaren. He's saying, I didn't do anything wrong.
Well, what disappointment for Rubens. Pole position, and then the hit from behind. Nothing he could do about it. He was on the brakes for the first corner, and Ralf Schumacher ploughed straight into the back of him. Well, always a possibility. It's the first Grand Prix of the year. The nerves are jangling. Let's take another look at this. Side to side, there was certainly a fair bit of weaving going on.
Well, just again, it's just almost, I mean, Ralf Schumacher's car, it must have gone 20 feet up in the air before it fortunately came back down on all four wheels square. And luckily, the part of the gravel that he came down in allowed him the maximum amount of space before he actually hit that tyre barrier. But, I mean, that was frightening. It
was very frightening indeed, but it looks as though all the drivers are okay, all out of their machines. And David Coulthard leads Jarno Trulli in the Renault around. Third place, Juan Pablo Montoya. Michael Schumacher got squeezed back down to fourth in all of that. And look, Eddie Irvine and Pedro de la Rosa, who I said managed to sneak around the outside, they're now up into fifth and sixth places, would you believe it? Sato seventh, Webber, the Australian, is in eighth, then Alex Young, Jacques Villeneuve and Kimi Raikkonen. Now, the race has not been stopped. Let's just make sure what's going on here. The race has not been stopped. The safety car is out there, but the race order remains as it is. And if it stays like this, John, without stopping the race, presumably these drivers won't be allowed out in their spare cars.
The only time you can take the spare car is if the race is actually stopped. There we see Raikkonen making his way into the pits. The team have got a fresh set of rubber for him in case he either picked up something or there's been a damage to a wheel. I mean, he was right in the midst of all that. Fortunately, he appeared to get through it clear. Well, it's the nose must have been damaged somehow or other. Clipped maybe a part of another car or clipped another car. So Ron Dennis controlling the whole operation from the pit wall. And again, diving down the back of Raikkonen. Something's happened to the...
So maybe some debris gone down there or something, John.
I don't know what it is. Certainly, he must have undone his seatbelts. He could not have moved forward like that without... Yeah, something's down there. Something caught down his back. It's irritating him.
Yeah, the belts must be a little loose because he can move a little bit at the moment.
You would not move like that unless the belts were disconnected.
Well, there's obviously a major problem down there with the seat or with something, some debris perhaps that got thrown around in that accident. Something's been pulled out, and he gets back into the field once again. But dear, oh dear. And also running there is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Now remember, he'd already jumped into the spare car and started
in the pit lane.
From the pit lane.
Indeed, so for Frentzen it's in a sense, I mean, it's not, I can't say it's been a gift, but at least he's had the opportunity to get back into the race in a circumstance which he could never have dreamed of, 10 seconds before the races are due to start.
Well, and the fact that we have only some 12 runners or 11 runners at the moment means that points could be a possibility. Another view here of the start.
As Ralf move, very quick move over to the right, then cuts back to the left. But see, he doesn't even hit the brakes. Rubens brake for the corner, which he's entitled to do, obviously, and the fact that Ralph got himself behind Barrichello and just had nowhere to go. He was on the throttle and, well, very, very fortunate. But then as the carnage, look at the Ferrari-Ross, Brawn absolutely distraught. The carnage that takes place consequently, because nobody can quite see what's going on there. Oh, and Sam Michael and Patrick Head, they're not happy. They think that's...
Well, it was a pretty frightening looking accident, wasn't it, John?
Horrendous.
And as their car, their man, flew into the air, you just never know what's going to happen after they take off like that. In fact, Ralph was really very fortunate. A lot of space, a huge amount of runoff, and the angle the car went off at, there was time for it to slow down a bit before it got to the tyres. Now, still work going on down there in pit lane, but let's just let you know once again that David Coulthard is leading the Australian Grand Prix. Behind him, it's Jarno Trulli in the Renault. There you see the leaders come through. Third place for Montoya, fourth place for Michael Schumacher, fifth place for Eddie Irvine, De La Rosa behind him, then Takuma Sato, Mark Webber just through the picture there, then Alex Young, Jacques Villeneuve, and then Mika Salo has managed to get that car back onto the track once again. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is behind him as we take another look.
It's the move Barrichello makes, then Schumacher counters, that's Ralph, and then suddenly he just seems to forget he's got to put his brakes on.
And then he goes off, running through, down to the tyres, and Barrichello, of course, was spun out, and then tyre smoke, everybody else hitting each other as a result. That's Enrique Bernoldi that you see walking back. Now, he was stranded on the grid originally, if you remember, and I don't think there's any really much chance of him getting into the race, as David Coulthard leads them round. The safety car being brought into action at the start of the season this year. And, well, we saw a big accident here last year, if you remember. That was on the fourth lap of the race. And this time, they didn't even get into the first corner before we saw the first accident of the season.
Well, just picking up some news from the pit lane, Ralf Schumacher saying that, well, he didn't say that Rubens braked early, but he probably did brake fractionally early, which is what you should do at the start of a Grand Prix into the first corner. And Ralph simply just miscalculated. He made an error, and the whole incident really is down to him.
Felipe Massa, what a great shame for this young Brazilian who had impressed us all throughout practice and qualifying. And now he's just one of the victims. The other Sauber as well, I'm afraid, is out. So after such a promising performance from the Sauber team in qualifying, with both of their cars in the top 10, it's all over for them already.
Nick Heidfeld and Felipe Massa relegated to the pit lane. Peter Sauber absolutely gutted by the events that have taken place, that have unfolded. I did anticipate the midfield being the problem area, and I'd like to see maybe some of the onboard shots from those cars to see how much vision they actually had, or whether they just got transfixed on what was taking place ahead of them, and they themselves, didn't focus on what was immediately ahead of them.
Looking at Kimi Räikkönen here as he just cruises around behind the safety car. But remember, Kimi has been into the pits, put a new set of tyres on. He's running in 11th position now. And, well, we're just going to have to keep an eye on the proceedings here. Incident involving Frentzen under investigation by the stewards. Now, well, not quite sure what that's about at this point, but no doubt we shall discover soon.
Well, all I can assume is that the procedure that occurred on the actual grid, and then Frentzen running and jumping into the spare car, whether that has caused a problem with the interpretation of the regulations, or whether it's something subsequent on the grid, on the track.
Race safety car coming in this lap, so the Australian Grand Prix is going to get well and truly underway in a moment, and this is great news for David Coulthard. He has got Jarno Trulli behind him. He's got Montoya then next up. Now, that was when Frentzen joined into the race. I wonder if that caused a problem.
Well, all I can think is that he should have maybe waited until the entire field had gone through, or maybe he came across that yellow line, which you're not permitted to do. We didn't see the full sequence, you just saw him come out of the pits. But clearly something has caught the attention of the race director and deputy director, and they are taking it to the stewards.
Right, safety car bringing them round. Will be coming in this time around. And David Coulthard has the opportunity he needs to try and open up an advantage over Michael Schumacher. Schumacher has Montoya immediately ahead of him in third place. Now, what are the chances of Montoya letting Michael Schumacher through? Not great, I would say, because Montoya sees this as an ideal opportunity to stay in front of the Ferrari and himself go chasing after Coulthard. The question really is how quick Trulli is going to be.
Well, I think that's going to be the real bout for Montoya and for Michael Schumacher, because Jarno Trulli, believe me, in a single lap is going to be plenty quick, and he's not going to move over because he's got two of the super teams behind him. He's there because of circumstance. He's going to try and stick to the tail of David Coulthard and work on Coulthard and forget about Montoya and Michael Schumacher. But look at the two Jaguars. I mean, they have an appalling Friday and an appalling Saturday, and here they are, not on merit, but just by circumstance, 5th and 6th.
So here we go then after 4 laps of the safety car. David Coulthard brings them through the last corner, building up to speed, and the race is well and truly underway now, with Coulthard leading for McLaren Mercedes, Jarno Trulli in second place for Renault, Montoya just locking a break into turn 1 and looking aggressive immediately. Michael Schumacher in 4th, then the two Jaguars coming through, and we have lost so many cars from this race already. Let me just tell you who's out. It's Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher, Fisichella, Felipe Massa. Oh, and look at this.
Montoya tried to pass down the inside into turn 6. That was trying to get past Trulli. He's allowed, I beg your pardon, turn 3, and he's allowed in doing so Michael Schumacher to take away third place. I mean, Juan Montoya to take a punt down the inside into turn 3 was a huge risk.
A big risk. He is a racer, but that was perhaps not the wisest move at this point in the race, and it's allowing David Coulthard to do exactly what he wants to do and pull away from Jarno Trulli. Now Michael Schumacher will attack Trulli and try and move up into second. He will not want to let David Coulthard have free air for long, and he will be trying to get past the blue and yellow Renault of the Italian.
Now, Ben, we've seen in practice and in qualifying that the Ferrari's top speed is only about 306 miles k's per hour on the quickest part of the circuit. In fact, Jarno Trulli was marginally quicker.
Trulli just covering the inside a little bit there into the Ascari corner, but Schumacher wasn't able to get quite close enough. Look at that, the speed through the right-hander. The Ferrari looking so fast, but this is where he's got to set up a possible overtaking manoeuvre.
Yes, but of course the Renault has got straight line speed. Michael's got corner speed, he's got momentum off the corner, but look, nothing in acceleration. Now he's not going to be able to do anything from here on down into the corner. It's very risky to have a look down the inside, particularly somebody who's being very racy like Jarno Trulli.
Yeah, and a late break there from Michael Schumacher actually allowed Trulli to pull away slightly. So this is Coulthard's opportunity to make a break, and it's already 3 seconds. 3 seconds advantage for David Coulthard over this battle for second. Let's take a look at what Montoya was up to. Tried to go down the outside a little bit and just made a mistake.
It wasn't even trying to pass, he just got on the dirty part of the track, trying to place himself in such a way that he could get a run at Trulli at one of the later sections of the circuit. He just made a misjudgment and he got caught by what is still an offline track that's very, very green.
So the battle for second place between Jarno Trulli, the Italian, who's never won a Grand Prix, made his debut back here at Melbourne back in 1997.
This is where Michael Schumacher's got to start his work. He's got to get himself into position sufficiently close to Trulli coming through here that he can really get on the throttle and drive that Ferrari out of turn 12, pick up such slipstream as there is and put himself in a position to dive down the inside, but Trulli's going to cover it.
Yes, it's not close enough once again, and Trulli, you can see he's driving the wheels off that Renault to stay in front of Schumacher. You can see the car twitching around. Look at the speed differential through the right-hander there at turn 14, but unless Michael can find a good exit,
he's got a good chance, because Trulli didn't do a good exit on 15. Michael's got the run of 16. He's got the horsepower. He might take a chance. Trulli will defend, but just watch Schumacher. Here he comes. Can he get down the inside? Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, I thought there was going to be contact there, but they managed to sort it out. But look at this. It's now put Michael under attack from Montoya, because Michael Schumacher lost ground. Oh, and Trulli's locking up. Montoya taking that wider line, but Michael, oh, and again he makes the mistake there.
Well, he doesn't learn the first time, and he certainly didn't learn the second time. Montoya got the momentum back up while this battle for second place is going on, and yet again he tried to take that wide line to give him position so that when he comes through 4 out of 5 and into turn 6 he could be in position to challenge. Here's the view head on. Schumacher is thinking, will I, Oh, he just cuts me off. But good motor racing, Formula One.
Good racing from the two of them, yes, absolutely. Commitment from both Trulli and Schumacher, but this is still allowing Coulthard to get away. 4.5 seconds is David Coulthard's lead here. Trulli in second place, Michael Schumacher in third, then it's Montoya. Eddie Irvine is still in fifth place. He's dropped about 6 seconds off this battle that we're watching as Michael closes up to Trulli once again.
The big problem for Michael Schumacher is that Jarno Trulli is running about 1.5 seconds slower than David Coulthard, and therefore the speed that Schumacher is capable of running at is also down about 1.5 seconds. Coulthard's disappearing into the distance. He's 7 seconds ahead of Jarno Trulli at this moment.
Now, here we go. Through these last two corners, Trulli's a bit more cautious this time, gets on the power earlier. Look at the lead that David Coulthard has as we look back up that start-finish straight.
And Michael Schumacher not close enough on this time to try and take a dive down the inside. He's going to have to pressure Trulli, particularly through forward. Oh, Trulli's lost it. Trulli spun. Michael's through. It's all over for Jarno Trulli. The back of the car's damaged. Now Montoya comes down once again looking for that outside line. Can he wait? Can he be patient?
Wow, what an amazing race we're watching in the early stages. Trulli's car.
Safety car's got to come out, I'm sure.
Yeah, surely we'll see the safety car coming out. Oh, Montoya! Oh, how much wider do you want to go? He was almost on the grass there completely with that car, but he managed to hold it together, and this is great racing, but Coulthard has a 6.6 second advantage.
The safety car is on standby. We're waiting to see whether it's going to be activated or not. Look, he just under acceleration, the back end of the car gets away, spins inwards, hits the end of the barrier.
Well, absolutely a shunt there for Trulli that he will, look at this, the wheel spinning.
You would think, I mean, these cars have got traction control. The Benetton's got the best launch control of anybody, yet as if it suddenly became inactive.
Yeah, it certainly broke away very quickly in the mid part of the corner. Michael saying thank you very much, but this is going to wipe out Coulthard's 6.6 second lead. Whoa, well, that is such bad news for the Scotsman. He's worked so hard on these last few laps, and now it's all going to be wiped out by the safety car.
Indeed, and it's going to make the battle at the front a battle between McLaren with Michelin and Ferrari with Bridgestone. And we're still looking at track temperatures which are rising. So all that is going towards helping the Michelin cars, and that is now a Michelin sandwich with the Bridgestone, the meat in the middle.
Oh, wow, this is fantastic. Oh, Coulthard up in front now has Michael Schumacher filling his mirrors with Montoya just looking for his opportunity to sneak through into second place once they get the all clear once again. They're going past the stricken car of Trulli. This allows the other cars to close up. Irvine, now look at Raikkonen, John. Raikkonen's been making up some good ground. We've been concentrating on that battle up front, of course we have, but Raikkonen has moved himself up into fifth place.
And he's going to be right in the frame because he's got Eddie Irvine ahead of him now. That will not be an easy overtake. Eddie will fight cat and dog for that fourth place, but Raikkonen will have the horsepower advantage. He will have the car advantage.
Now let's take a look at this. Frentzen.
Oh, you waved yellow flag. Now what are you doing? What are you doing? There's a yellow flag. We could see it. Frentzen, get back.
Well, he did. He did do that. So that's good news. It was when the safety car came out and those guys were at the back part of the track. But he was sensible enough to give the place back. There's Mark Webber. And Mark running in 9th position. And let's give you a quick run through the field now. The positions after 9 laps. Coulthard.
Tape. What's that hanging off Coulthard's car? Is it some tape that's come loose between the exit of the air ducts and up around the airbox?
Something looking a bit odd there. The positions: Coulthard, Schumacher, Montoya, then Irvine, Raikkonen and Takuma Sato, then De La Rosa 7th ahead of Villeneuve, Webber and Alex Young. Mika Salo is still going. He's down in 12th. He's made a stop. Frentzen's just made a stop as well. And that's about it. So looking at the cars that are out of this race, a huge long list of them. Look at them all. Nick Heidfeld, Jenson Button, Olivier Panis, Alan McNish as well, Felipe Massa, Giancarlo Fisichella, Ralph Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, all out of this race as Jarno Trulli makes his way back towards the pits.
I mean, you can understand what Trulli was trying to do. He was under extreme pressure from Michael Schumacher, and really probably the car just didn't have the grip under it to sustain that degree of pressure and that degree of commitment that Michael Schumacher was putting Jarno Trulli under. This is the view back from the safety car. This year it's the new SL55 from Mercedes with that 5.5 V8 supercharged engine, 476 horsepower. and it sounds wonderful.
It does sound good, doesn't it? Dave Richards, the boss now of the BAR Honda team. Olivier Panis watching from the pit wall. Their remaining car of Jacques Villeneuve still in the race, running in 8th position as the clear-up operation on the exit of turn 2 continues to get Jarno Trulli's car out of the way. Into the pits then comes Villeneuve and Bernoldi. Now Bernoldi did go back out, interestingly enough. They got him back out in that car that didn't want to run at the start of this race, and he has rejoined.
But of course he's 5 laps down, Jacques Villeneuve. He rejoins after that very quick pit stop.
And it's interesting to see, coming in to make that early stop, looked like just a routine stop, 10 laps completed, and this is real IndyCar style use of the safety car period to top up with fuel and hope that helps him in the later part of this race. Jacques Villeneuve taking full advantage, running towards the back of this lead lap anyway, not losing many places by coming in. That might work for him later in the race in terms of fuel strategy. The field coming through, there's Mark Webber, the Australian, managing to get through that first lap incident cleanly, and now an opportunity for him perhaps, with not so many cars in this race. You never know, he might even get that Minardi up into the points. Australia at last having a driver to cheer on. It's been a while. The most successful Australian driver, of course, was Jack Brabham, or Sir Jack Brabham as he is now, 3 times a world champion. But some years ago, Alan Jones, also a world champion for Australia back in 1980. But it has been a while since we've seen a competitive Australian driver in the Formula 1 ranks. Now, Trulli's car on the back of the transporter there, being moved out of the way, so it shouldn't be too long before we see the safety car making its way back into the pits. There's a little bit of clearing up perhaps still to be done there. But Trulli's race all done. I think, as you said, John, it was certainly a case of him hanging on as much as possible. And in the end, the car perhaps wasn't capable of it. Safety car will be coming in on this lap.
Well, just been picking up on Rubens Barrichello, and one thing he's saying is he thought the decision not to stop the race was a mistake. He thought there was too much bits and pieces of cars around there, but clearly he's speaking from a moment of wanting to get into the spare car. But also he was saying that he thought that he actually braked marginally later than he'd expect, and that Ralph just completely misjudged.
Oh, Coulthard's got off! Coulthard's got off at the restart! Schumacher takes the lead! Montoya goes past him. Now, that is interesting. They've gone past before they get to the line and all that. I wonder how that one's going to work out. Montoya attacking to the outside.
Go past. He's passed them under brakes. Can he get round the corner? He did. What an unbelievable overtake by the Colombian Montoya. I mean, stuck it on Michael Schumacher big time.
Wow, what a restart. Coulthard off on the grass. Montoya takes Schumacher, and now these two are at battle once again. And the Michelin tyre certainly working well under those conditions as Montoya gets past Michael Schumacher, gets through the first 2 corners, and now is going to try and pull away from the Ferrari.
And what of David Coulthard? He's stuck behind the 2 Jaguars. Let's look again and see. Coming into turn 15, he locks up that inside front wheel. Suddenly he can't slow the car down. I don't believe, David Coulthard, you've got the greatest chance of your career to win a Grand Prix here in Australia, and you blow it like that.
Oh, that is such a disappointment. He's still in the race, but look, he's behind his teammate now, Kimi Räikkönen. He's dropped to 5th position. Irvine up into 3rd place in the Jag. He's not going to be able to live for the pace of these lead 2. We know that Jaguar has not got the performance at the moment, but he is in 3rd place, and Irvine will desperately try and hold on to that. What a result that would be if they can hold on. Long way to go in this race. Only the 11 laps been completed so far, and what drama we've seen. And we've got the battle that everyone's been talking about on the lead up to this season, Montoya versus Michael Schumacher.
And, I mean, what an unbelievable pass. Montoya did get a better run off turn 16. He had the momentum, but he just pulled out and on sheer grunt went past the Ferrari. And not only did he go past him, he could get ahead of him before he had to brake. Michael actually backed off earlier than I thought it was necessary. Again, there's some tape or something hanging off the back of Coulthard's car. It's behind the airbox. It's not interfering with the car in any way. It just looks slightly untidy.
So these two, the gap not really changing too much, just a 1 second gap between them. Michael Schumacher right over the curb. We saw Montoya using that curb just a little while ago. Now we begin to get a picture of the relative pace of these two cars. The Williams BMW up front, it is a new car, the 2002 car. Behind it, the Ferrari, the championship winning car effectively of last year, although with modifications, and it's brought up to spec, and this is the battle.
But we've got another battle going on behind that, because Raikkonen and Coulthard are now ahead of Eddie Irvine. Irvine back down to 5th, so there's a battle going on between the two McLaren drivers. There's little over a second and a bit between them. Here we can see again what a brilliant bit of overtaking by Montoya. Michael Schumacher went to the inside, blocked, but Montoya's still on the gas when Michael's off it. He locks up a brake. Look at. Oh, goodness, there's so much going on. Sato keeping out of the way of that one.
Only just. That gives Michael Schumacher a chance to close up to Montoya there, and he right under the rear wing of Montoya as they come out of that last corner onto start-finish straight. Can he do anything? Look at the acceleration. Important to see. Well, BMW there certainly seem to have the edge.
They've got a superior top speed. This is one of the, in fact, it's the quickest part of the racetrack. The cars in qualifying were doing something like 300 and, well, in the case of Ralf Schumacher, 310. Montoya was doing 309. Michael Schumacher was only doing 306. So at that part of the track, the advantage clearly lies with the Williams. But Ferrari, running probably more downforce, is able to close up in the corner. He's got more corner grip.
Look at that fantastic view that we have access to right over the rear wing of Montoya's car, looking back at Michael Schumacher, and this is what it's all about. The two top drivers battling wheel to wheel, as we've seen already in this race, and Schumacher is not being dropped at all by Montoya.
But interestingly, the quickest car on the circuit right now is the man that threw the lead away in turn 15, and that's David Coulthard, making amends for that appalling error.
Well, let's see what he can do by the end of this race. His teammate Kimi Raikkonen is in 3rd place, Coulthard himself in 4th, Irvine in 5th, De La Rosa 6th. Mark Webber has moved up to 7th, and that looks like Takuma Sato going very slowly, or is he just keeping out of the way?
No, he's going slowly as well as keeping out of the way. Oh, don't pull across the track. And he's trying to get out of the way of Frentzen, but in doing so he's compromising. But look, Michael Schumacher trying to position himself to get a run off turn 16 to do what Montoya did to Schumacher. Schumacher's looking to repay that present, but he's not got enough momentum.
Now, on the power once again, it should be the BMW, although look at this, he picked up a bit of a toe here, having a little look down the inside, but not close enough. John, what we saw last year, I wonder if that's coming in. The Michelin tyre often worked very well initially, went through a little bit of a patch where it wasn't so quick, and then came in again. I wonder if we're going to see that happen this season.
Well, I think also what's occurring is that because they've now run a number of laps, or into lap, there's 44 laps remaining at 58, the tyre temperature has built up. It's now operating probably in its operating zone, and that's giving Montoya that little bit of extra grip that he may not have had, but also it's preventing Michael Schumacher getting a good run on Montoya, particularly coming onto pit straight. He's hurting in terms of top speed. He is quicker in other parts of the circuit. The split times are marginally favouring Schumacher one part, but benefiting Montoya in another part.
These two guys are absolutely on the limit. You can see by the amount of road they're using, flicking up the grass here, there and everywhere, coming up towards turns 11 and 12. Fast left, followed by the right, and again over the curb on the exit. Not quite on the grass that time, but very close to it. Montoya having to keep an eye on his mirror. This is our view back from the race leader's car, looking straight back at 4 times world champion Michael Schumacher, who does not like to be beaten.
And this is where Schumacher really can get the job done. He was quick here in practice and qualifying. He closes down to Montoya. Again, he's got to get himself into a position. Montoya is holding the throttle. Schumacher can get on it more heavily, and that's where he has got some advantage. But look, the straight line speed of that BMW Williams is just sufficient to keep Michael Schumacher out of contact.
He moves into the inside now. There might be a little bit less grip on the inside. Oh, it's getting close again.
It's a good chance. Schumacher again positioning himself now, coming down into turn 3 on the outside of the corner that's upcoming. He's got to be careful. He knows what happened to Montoya. He ran wide twice there in opening laps.
Well, this is fantastic. This is like a Formula Ford race, let alone a Formula 1 race. They're wheel to wheel all the time, and the tension down there in the pit lane. Patrick Head watching his man in control of this race at the moment, but look behind.
Kimi Raikkonen is joining in this battle. He's been quietly getting on with the work. There is David Coulthard trying to make up ground. I mean, what is going through this man's head? He must be absolutely, completely mad with himself for allowing himself to be suckered into locking up a break and losing 4 places.
Those Ferrari guys look very calm, don't they? I don't know quite how they can feel that calm with this going on up front. Montoya with just a fractional advantage over Michael Schumacher. Kimi Räikkönen joining in on the party, and David Coulthard's not that far behind himself. He's another 5 seconds back, so he's still got plenty of work to do, but he is going very quickly.
Back to the final segment of the circuit again. Schumacher quicker through turn 13 into 14 hole station. Now positioning himself. He doesn't want to overrun Montoya. He wants to be able to pick up the throttle, drive the car through 15, and also maintain that momentum through 16 so he can get onto the rear of the car, and therefore as they come down into turn 1 at the end of the pit straight to ensure that he's got a chance to pass. He's closing, but again Montoya defends down the inside. Michael can do nothing this time again.
But again, Montoya loses speed in the middle part, and here comes Michael. Michael gets back to Montoya, and Schumacher retakes the lead. A round of applause from the Ferrari mechanics. But these two guys are really racing. This is what motor racing's about, wheel to wheel, giving each other just enough room, making tiny mistakes, trying to take advantage, and Schumacher and Montoya, this is what it's all about.
Well, that is total brilliance from Michael Schumacher. He knew that he forced Montoya into turn 1 to brake late, to not then have the ideal entry to the corner. He's probably off the throttle too long. Michael cut back to the right and just drove around him with about another 5 or 6 miles an hour advantage. Now Raikkonen's going to give a lot of heat to Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah, but look at Michael. He's really beginning to pull away. He's definitely got the speed advantage here. And now that he's managed to get past, he is flying as he begins to pull out.
So Montoya on the brakes very late. Can't get the car slowed down, has to straighten it up. Michael sees that, reads it. He just pulls over to the right and just drives around the outside. Thank you, Juan Pablo. I thought you were smarter than you are.
Well, that was fantastic, but you can't say that...
Schumacher's looking over at Montoya. He's watching him. I bet you he's laughing his head off on that helmet.
I bet he is indeed, but he didn't... Neither of them are really making mistakes. It's just pure racing tactics and trying to find a way past. But look at Michael really pulling away from these two as Raikkonen closes in on the back of the Williams BMW of Juan Pablo Montoya.
And Michael Schumacher now really with clear air for the first time this afternoon. 1:31.298, and that is, well, virtually a second quicker than the rest of the field. That's why the gap is opening up that quickly.
Yes, so now it really looks like the Ferrari is working well on lap 17 of this race. Montoya 2.2 seconds behind. We're on board here with Kimi Räikkönen, and is Montoya struggling a bit more for grip? The McLaren's certainly looking good behind him.
Well, Montoya worked his car extremely hard in those laps when he was ahead of Michael Schumacher. Raikkonen's had clear air to run. He's not had any pressure. But, you know, getting these two guys together, it's a bit like the difference between a rock and a hard place. Neither's going to give way, but both are determined to make sure they can get that second place.
Let's just remind you, David Coulthard is running still behind this group. He's 4.3 seconds behind his teammate here, Kimi Räikkönen.
And Coulthard, in fact, running marginally quicker than Raikkonen, but it's going to take him a long time, maybe another 5-6 laps, if the situations, as we're looking at, remain station.
Well, you can see Montoya still pushing very hard indeed. That Williams is leaping around all over the place as he tries to stay ahead of Raikkonen. And there, Michael Schumacher, our race leader. Look at the gap back already there to Montoya and Raikkonen.
Well, Michael Schumacher got a clear road. He can now run at the car's full potential. He wasn't able to do that when he was behind both Coulthard and Montoya. But now the Ferrari, it's quick in a lap, but it's certainly vulnerable in straight line speed in this circuit.
A new fastest lap to Michael Schumacher. And these two guys are quite a long way off that. There's no doubt about it. A 30.1 for Michael Schumacher. Eddie Irvine has come up into 5th place. Well, he's in 5th place, but there's a problem there.
That's Pedro de la Rosa, so you can hear is a misfire. So he'll be into the pits and see whether there's a cure for that or whether there's going to be a terminal stop.
So Irvine has just crossed the line in 5th place, now crossing the line in 6th position. With De La Rosa in trouble, there's some going to be a change there as Webber has just gone over the line in 6th place now. De La Rosa dropping down the order.
Black flag for leaving the pits when the red light was on. That was the reason why Frentzen was in trouble, and that is a pretty serious offence.
That is a great shame. It's a black flag as opposed to a penalty, is it, John? Are they actually going to make him stop, or is he going to have to...
It's over. It's over. It's finished.
Black flag.
He's out.
In the pits, the red lights on.
That's disqualification.
Well, that's a great shame for the team. It's all over for Heinz-Harald Frentzen. That's all over for so many drivers in this race. But remember, Bernoldi...
You want me to come in? Yeah, you've got a black flag, I'm afraid. Game over.
Poor Heinz-Harald won't like the sound of that.
Well, one can only say that when the red light's on, it says stop. When the green light's on, it says go. And I'm sure Heinz-Harald can detect the difference between red and green. If he can't, he shouldn't be out there.
And he's one of the most experienced drivers out there. Now, the investigation on the other Arrows car 21, which is back out there. Bernoldi was stranded on the grid, remember, and then rejoined the race. And I wonder if there might be some irregular... I wondered, actually, how he managed to get away with that, but I didn't quite see the full sequence of events. We'll find out whether the stewards are going to chuck out the other Arrows as well.
Well, let's look back and see if we can find something. This is Frentzen, I think, coming out of the pits when the lights were red. But looking at Bernoldi, I don't see anything of there. It may be that Bernoldi, because the car was pushed off the grid and something to do with it, I need to go through the rule book and check that one out.
Well, let's see what's happening up front. Michael Schumacher, 6.2 seconds his lead now over Montoya. Montoya just a fraction ahead there of Kimi Räikkönen still. The battle for second, third, there they are going through the picture now. And Coulthard is closing up because Montoya is not able to go so quickly. Coulthard's closing up.
Indeed it is. What's happening is Räikkönen can't get close enough to have a go at Montoya. And Räikkönen's pace is being dictated by that of Juan Pablo Montoya. So it may well be we could see, I don't know what the strategy is, no one has given anything away. Ordinarily, most teams would opt for a long first session, and then if they want to alter their strategy, do a very short dash to a second stop, we have to wait. But certainly Montoya is losing time in corners. Räikkönen is sitting there, not able to get close enough to launch an attack onto the Colombian. In the meantime, Coulthard is closing down by the lap. He's down to 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, it's getting closer and closer. Frentzen's race is all over, though, as he clambers out of the Arrows. The end of a very strange afternoon for him, and that's just disappointing. But for so many teams, for so many drivers here this afternoon, travelling thousands and thousands of miles, John, to compete at the first round of the championship. And we've lost so many from this race. Is that still De La Rosa cruising around slowly?
It looks like De La Rosa, can't really tell, it's just a little bit far away. But whoever it was, certainly getting well and truly out of the way, and I think it probably is De La Rosa at the speed he's running. That car has a misfire, and it's all around the circuit.
I don't think it's going to last that much longer. Here comes Montoya, followed by Räikkönen. Just to remind you of the cars that are no longer in this race: Jarno Trulli, Barrichello, Ralf Schumacher, Fisichella, Felipe Massa, Nick Heidfeld, Jenson Button, Olivier Panis and Alan McNish. Nearly all of those taken out in the first corner accident at the start of this event. Comparison of the lap times and the gaps here of Kimi Räikkönen and David Coulthard, but Coulthard certainly being given an opportunity to close up because Montoya can't quite match their pace.
No, he's taking lumps out of Kimi Räikkönen and Montoya, and the gap, as we saw prior lap, was 3.5 seconds. As Coulthard comes out of exit turn 16, we'll check and see how much he's gained. It probably may be down to about 3.1. Stays at 3.5. Surprisingly, maybe Coulthard's just pushed that bit too hard as well, and he's now beginning to suffer a little bit of tyre degradation, a little bit of loss of grip.
Tom Walkinshaw on the left, speaking to Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and perhaps still an opportunity, John, to learn a little bit about the car from today's events.
Well, they would have learned something, but of course it's disappointing, and I'm sure Tom speaks the same English as anybody else in Formula One does, and he will say, why did you not stop with the lights?
Yeah, absolutely. For a driver of Frentzen's experience, it is a very strange mistake to make, but in the excitement of the moment, perhaps not aware that the lights were on red. Here is Montoya, our second place man. Kimi Räikkönen in third. You know, it's easy to forget, John, that Räikkönen's in only his second season of Grand Prix racing, his debut for the McLaren Mercedes team. He looks like he's been running up front in Grand Prix for years.
Well, he looked like that at the Grand Prix here last year. I felt he was so confident, so mature. And again, talking to the McLaren team, I mean, they call him the Iceman. They thought Mika Häkkinen was cool. He's so cool, he's called the Iceman. And they believe he is a world champion even this year.
Well, look at that.
Not that one.
Well, that was a bit of a moment. Let's just watch him through these final couple of turns on the lap. A bit smoother through the left-hander. But definitely lost a bit of ground through that previous corner.
Yes, he did. It's just trying to look at the tyres to see if there's any sign of that feathering you get on the tyre surface, the tread, where it starts to roll across the tyre. Something that's desperately obvious about it. You can't see any change. Sometimes you see a change of colour. Coulthard off again. David Coulthard. I tell you, you're going to get snapped legs and sent to bed with any tea tonight for what you're doing today.
Same corner as well, John. It's that turn 15. It is not working out for him. Yesterday in qualifying, he encountered Jacques Villeneuve there and got off the track and spun and touched the wall. Now, what did he do this time?
Well, he just did the same thing effectively, but without locking up the inside brake. I mean, what is going on? I mean, I would love to see David Coulthard and Ron Dennis after this race.
Well, we'll have to find out, perhaps. I mean, we could always, perhaps there is a problem with the braking on that car. Perhaps he is suffering some sort of brake balance.
He's got a problem, certainly. You can see he's suddenly slowed right down. Now, whether that's the cause of the problems, maybe there's something in the gear shift that's causing him to overrun the corner. It could well be that the downshifts that we've seen Sato have a problem with on the Jordan on Saturday. Maybe there's something similar in the gearbox of Coulthard's. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh and unkind on David Coulthard at this point.
Well, maybe we'll find out soon. It does look, though, as though
he's going into the pits at that speed. His day's over, I reckon.
It's all over for David Coulthard. That's a great disappointment. He looked so well placed after that initial accident. He was out in front. He pulled away dramatically from those behind. He'd opened up a 6.6 second advantage at one point. Then the safety car came out, and it was on the restart after the safety car that he went off. He locked a brake as he began to build up speed, and maybe there was some problem with the car developing there already. Then he was able to put in some very quick laps as he caught up, but something has gone seriously wrong, and Eddie Irvine just trying to sneak through now with Mika Salo in the Toyota behind.
Yes, Mika Salo is a lap down. He's running in 9th place, but Eddie Irvine is now up into 4th place. I mean, Eddie Irvine won the Grand Prix here in 1999 in a car that was a winning car, but suddenly from 19th in the grid to 4th, even Eddie, in his most optimistic frame of mind, couldn't have believed this.
David stayed out there. That's interesting. We expected him to be coming in at the end of this lap.
Well, he will be in contact with the team, and if it's maybe simply a problem with the systems, he's got a backup system on the car. They've been telling him what to do, which buttons to push, which sequence to push them in. That may be, I suspect it has been a downshift gear change problem, and they've got a secondary backup system which they can activate.
Now, of course, this year, John, that's very relevant because there's a slight change in the rules in that the teams are allowed to transfer data and information from pits to car in a slightly different way to previous years.
Yes, the regulations allow ship to shore both ways, so maybe the team have been able to recognise the problem and certainly alert Coulthard to what to do, or whether they can physically do it in the pits. Well, I wouldn't be quite sure. It depends on the particular problem that Coulthard has suffered from. But in the meantime, Michael Schumacher has opened that gap up. It was 13.8 seconds. He's done a lap in the 1:29s already, and he's up and gone.
He is disappearing up the road now, isn't he? Looking for a hat-trick of victories here in Melbourne. 34 laps to go still. 24 laps have been completed. So we're still some way short of half distance, but he has opened up a very healthy 14.5 second lead.
And isn't it ironic that the reason he's got this healthy lead is because of his little brother getting it so wrong into the first corner on the opening lap.
Black flag for the other Arrows. It's all over for the team for using the spare car after the start of the race. So he obviously switched cars, Bernaldi, and you're not allowed to do that once the race is underway. You would be able to do it if the race had been red flagged, but it wasn't, and so Bernaldi also has now been black flagged.
Well, that's what we anticipated the case to be. But now Michael Schumacher with a healthy 14.5 second lead. He will build up an advantage possibly to the length of time it takes to enter the pit lane, stop and do a regular pit stop and get back out. That will be the instruction he's going to get from Ross Brawn on the pit wall to give themselves that margin, that cushion, in case when Michael makes what I suspect will be his one and only stop of the day, in case there's a problem.
Well, just going through the picture there was Mark Webber, well up into the points now. He's in 6th position. Oh, what an amazing result that would be. I mean, it's too early to say it really because there's such a long way to go in this race. First Grand Prix of the year. Mechanical woes are always such a strong possibility, but you have to hand it to them, you know. They've got this Minardi out, Paul Stoddart. Got Minardi together really just in time at the beginning of last year. Bit more investment this year.
They've got Jacques Villeneuve behind, he's 9.3 seconds behind. And, well, in fact, strangely, there's only about 3-4 tenths of a second advantage to Villeneuve over Mark Webber. And, you know, Villeneuve, if he wants to get that final 1 point, is going to have to do some hard work.
He is, but Webber's just taken 5th position from David Coulthard, and the Australian flags are waving around the track, and I can't believe that Webber knows quite what's going on here.
Well, what a dream debut for Mark Webber in his home country. In Australia, well, he's... And also the Minardi team, if they could just get that 1 single point. They didn't get it last year. To get one here would be the most emotional point I think Paul Stoddard and Mark Webber will ever score in their lives.
The team owned by Melbourne businessman Paul Stoddart. They've been doing all sorts of PR this week. Let's just watch Mark Webber for a moment.
They're staying clear of the curves, not taking any risks or chances. Just clips it, doesn't ride the curve as you've seen others nearer to the front.
And there's plenty of delight at the side of him now, moving up into 5th position.
The diggers certainly love Mark Webber here this afternoon.
Well, I'm delighted to see him enjoying this opportunity at the top level of the sport. A very professional young man, very serious about his motor racing and very talented as well. Now then, what's going on here? Raikkonen still putting the pressure on Montoya for second, as our race leader, Michael Schumacher, now enjoys an advantage of 17.5 seconds.
All Michael Schumacher has to do is just maintain the rhythm he's in. It's very comfortable for him. He's now lapping in the high 1:29s. He's got a rhythm. There's not much traffic on the circuit. We've lost so many cars on that first lap, so he's not going to find himself being distracted by coming up to slower cars to lap them. And sometimes you get those cars in bunches having their own battle. That disturbs the driver's rhythm. For Michael right now, really, he's been here so often. Well, 53 times in his career to date. This could easily be number 54.
It could well be a start to his chase for a 5th world title, and to match that score of Juan Manuel Fangio. It would be a dream start to the season, but boy, he's had to fight for it in the early stages of this race. Let's just remind you what happened at the beginning of the race. A huge accident when Ralf Schumacher went over the back of Pol Rubens Barrichello, and that initiated a massive pile-up into the first corner. Coulthard there still struggling around in the McLaren, but he's dropping time all the way around the lap. But to come back to that accident, it took out a huge number of cars. Barrichello himself and Ralf Schumacher, of course. Also Fisichella, Massa, Heidfeld, Button, Panis and Alan McNish. And then we've been seeing some great racing since then.
And David Coulthard has just gone 1 lap down to race leader Michael Schumacher. But the McLaren team have taken the position. It's not a terminal problem with the car, David Coulthard. Stay out with reliability and attrition. We could still be in for a result. We could still get a single point or possibly more. So just keep running.
Yes, and the team no doubt still working hard to see if they can make a difference from in the pits. What's just right on board with Michael for a moment on the fast section of track through the left-hander at 11 and 12 coming up.
That's on your screen, that blue bar, that is an indication to the car ahead that there's a leading car coming up, or a faster car in this case, and leading. So let him go through, and that, we think, was Jacques Villeneuve.
Yep, that was Jacques moving out of the way of the Ferrari that's leading this race. And Michael Schumacher now really beginning to dominate proceedings. Watch the rev counter on the left-hand side of the picture there. As the engine revs increase, most of these engines revving up to around 18,000 revs per minute and producing around about the 850 brake horsepower mark.
At the end of this lap, we will be exactly at half distance of this 58-lap race. So clearly, the strategy that Ferrari were adopting was a single stop strategy. But still, this battle for second place, Montoya consolidating. Raikkonen unable to mount a challenge. Of course, David Coulthard, who was catching Raikkonen, has got a mechanical problem. That was really, I think, what happened to him. Certainly that second occasion in turn 15, it was not a driver error. It was caused by some mechanical malfunction, I suspect, in the gearbox strategy, the hydraulics, or something controlling the gear change upshift and downshift.
On board with Kimi Raikkonen now on the bottom part of the circuit through the right-hander at turn 5, beneath the trees, and then up towards turn 6 and past the marina here through the quick left-hander. This is a pretty fast right-hander, Lauda corner, which builds up the speed as they approach the right-left. It's a chicane in many ways. Second gear through the first part, about 60 miles an hour, building up, and they're getting up to about 190 miles an hour here. Oh!
Jacques Villeneuve has gone off. A big shunt for Jacques Villeneuve. That's in turn 11, just before you swing back to turn 12. Jacques Villeneuve, heavy shunt front and rear of the car. Certainly the wings are off the car. The wheels are all attached. That's still a great sign. The double tethers that have been attached to the cars this year, they've been increased in strength. Villeneuve steps out of the car. He will be disappointed. Easy peasy points for BAR and their former team boss Craig Pollock. His face, we've seen that look on his face on many occasions over the last 3 years. How did he get there from turn 11?
Well, presumably it went wrong on the way into the corner, but that's a strange accident indeed. And we'll have to wait and see if we've got a replay of that. The yellow flag's out, the rear wing off, and let's hope there wasn't a problem. He did suffer a rear wing failure here in the past, but I would, well, let's wait and see before we make any verdicts on that.
Well, you can see the skid mark, something suddenly let go. I think if it had been the rear wing, it might have been a little bit further than just there, but suddenly he lost control on approach to turn 11, and there you see the skid marks on the track, and that's why he went to that unusual position. I've never seen a car on that part of the circuit or off that part of the circuit before.
Michael Schumacher won't be too badly affected by this as long as he's aware that the yellow flags are flying. He sees those and gets through safely. Let's see what we can spot here.
Well, we see the car spinning, but we don't really get to see if the wing was attached or not.
I don't think it was. I think that the rear wing was already off the car. I think perhaps it did come off.
Well, it was a repeat of what happened here in the maiden debut of the BAR team, virtually at the same part of track. Well, I don't know where Jacques will rate that in his thrill levels, but normally he's got a pretty high one, and well, he'd probably say that was about 4 out of 10, I think, by his standards.
Well, he's making his way back. He's perfectly all right, but that's the end of BAR's team now. We've lost a complete team there as well because Olivier Panis was involved in the first corner accident, and now Villeneuve goes out with what looks to us like a suspected.
Also allows Eddie Irvine time to breathe because he's got Mark Webber behind him, but Mark Webber's 22.7 seconds away and not likely to threaten Eddie Irvine and Jaguar. And I mean, Eddie's such a good race driver. He now knows what his job is, that is to bring Jaguar home and maximize the points opportunity. And you never know, he could even have a podium. I mean, it's unbelievable to think starting 19th you could actually get a podium.
It is amazing to think that.
Let's say in modern times, Ben.
Yes, in modern times, but I mean, we might expect a number of retirements in the first Grand Prix of the year. I don't think we expected to see quite so many cars go out, but not through mechanical retirements this time, through accident, damage and being off the track as a result of that first corner accident right at the start of things. Well, Mark Webber still going.
Michael Schumacher, for some unexplained reason, had a relatively slow lap by his standards. Well, one of those.
It's Mark Webber.
Yes,
there seems to be a little bit of concern there from Paul Stoddart, although he looks as though he is at speed. Looks all right through that section of the track. Just seemed to be a bit of tension to me on that pit wall for Minardi, so perhaps keep a close eye on the progress of this car.
So another yellow flag situation, but that's really still waiting for Villeneuve for the wing to be cleared away. That's out at the entry to turn 11. So still a localized yellow flag at that part of track, and it's incumbent upon drivers to slow down. Now that's a relative term, slow down. No one's ever defined it precisely, but I tell you what, if you don't slow down enough you will know all about it because you'll be brought in and penalised.
Yes, they'll watch those sector times, and if you've put in your personal best time of the race so far in the yellow, they will not take that too kindly, and they'll give you a penalty as a result. Our top three, as you can see from the graphics, Schumacher now 19.4 seconds ahead of Montoya, but Montoya still has that McLaren Mercedes of Kimi Räikkönen breathing down his neck.
The gap's been hovering around the second barrier, 1.1 at the minute.
And it does look as though everybody going for that single stop. We've seen that in recent years here in Melbourne. Most people going for the one stop, and quite often going quite a long way beyond the half distance point. We're coming up to that half distance point soon now. You may well see the cars go quite a long way beyond that before they make their stop.
Well, it's interesting that the mathematics say the two-stop strategy is the quicker strategy, but that's only if you're on the racetrack by yourself. It doesn't take into account the 21 other cars that ought to be on the racetrack as well. Sadly, here today we've lost a lot of cars in that that first lap shunt in the first corner, but other cars have fallen by the wayside for reasons of irregularity. Frentzen going through the red light, Bernoulli jumping into the spare car, after the race had commenced. So a lot of errors and a lot of rule books needing researching and rethinking. But Michael Schumacher now into the 1 minute 28.6. The lap that he suddenly lost time on, I suspect, was because he did the honourable thing when he saw the yellow lights and yellow flags. He actually did slow down to be sure there wasn't something of danger above and beyond what most racing drivers interpret a yellow light or flag to mean.
He's getting perilously close to breaking his own lap record at a 1:28.214 from last year. He's about 4/10 of a second off his existing lap record, and I think that will certainly be gone before the end of this race. Meanwhile, Montoya has a 2.3 second advantage over Kimi Raikkonen.
Yeah, that's stretched by, well, 1.2 seconds on the previous lap. Raikkonen dropped back now. It may have been a little error we haven't had a chance to see, or maybe he's now beginning to suffer a mechanical problem such as has afflicted David Coulthard.
Certainly sliding quite a lot through that final right-hander, coming around past the Marina, the BM Williams team, looking very relaxed, and Coulthard's off again.
And the same part of the circuit as well.
Yeah, but it has to be a problem up at that part of the track. There's no way that David would be going off making a mistake like that, and we've seen him struggling around the last few laps. He's still running in 7th place, and De La Rosa is still running. He's down in 9th position, but because so few cars are running, they're all deciding to stay out there no matter how sick they are.
And Mika Salo, he's a lap down, but he's about to pass David Coulthard to take 7th place away from the Scotsman. And then he's got young Alex Young ahead of him, so it'll be, well, Toyota, of course, laying up for their single stop of the day. And the focus of Toyota will be to try and run down Alex Young. Again, you see the McLaren just seemingly being pushed forward. Now, whether that's a throttle problem or whether it's a gear change problem, we'll only know after the race. But 3 times now in this race, David Coulthard has been off at turn 15.
Oh, it's turned into a terribly disappointing day for David Coulthard. It started so well. He got up in front at that initial start and opened up such a big advantage. But it's all gone wrong for him, really, since that safety car closed up the gap. And then on the restart, that problem started and it sent him off onto the grass. Now, we saw the Toyota team getting ready for Mika Salo to be coming in. New experience for Toyota, John. They've got to get used to the heat of competition, making pit stops in the middle of a Grand Prix.
They've done it in sports car racing. They've done Le Mans, they've done all sorts of sports car racing all around the world. There is pressure on that, but doing it in a Formula 1 Grand Prix, it is a choreographed ballet. That's how I think about it. You've got about 20 people all interacting, all having to have a sixth sense, knowing what their teammates are going to do, and if one gets it wrong, then the whole process just crumbles.
Well, we'll see how they get on in a minute. Montoya is coming up to lap Mark Webber here, and that shouldn't cause too much of a problem, but he's got to be aware of Raikkonen behind. Here come the Toyota's first stop, then Mika Salo into the pits. 3 guys on each corner as the fuel goes on. 12.5 litres per second flowing into the tank. Salo does a good job, professional job from the team, and away he goes.
Well, I was just worried about Mika Salo, Mark Webber. He's gone past, I suspect, more than 3 blue flags, and he might have to get a little set of talking to, maybe a quick little pit stop, 10-second stop, go penalty. When he saw that blue flag, he should recognise the car behind him is a car in second, or certainly a leading car, and at the earliest convenience, let him go through. And I think maybe Mark Webber didn't do that as well as he could have done. There were opportunities into 14 and 15 to let Montoya go through.
Schumacher continues on his untroubled way, hasn't stopped as yet, just going past Eddie Irvine there, lapping Irvine, but Irvine still going in 4th position and looking to gain some points for Jaguar. What a relief that would be to them. Kimi Raikkonen, meanwhile, laps Mark Webber. The gap between Montoya and Raikkonen, 2.4 seconds last time around. Seems to have things under control, but whatever lost him that initial time from Montoya, he doesn't seem to be able to put a quick lap in again to regain it.
Ben, it's the first time Kimi Raikkonen has been in a position to challenge for a top 3 position on merit. And I just wonder, is he just realising that suddenly when you're in a leading team like McLaren, Mercedes-Benz, is there something additional to just being a Grand Prix driver? When you're doing it in a team like Sauber, which are not considered a front-running team, whatever you do is a bonus. Now there's the expectation, and I just wonder, is it just maybe he's finding it himself? This is a little bit tougher than I imagined.
Well, as we've seen, often the second year is the tough year, no matter how talented you are, and that's what Raikkonen is going to have to deal with. But He's on target here today for his first ever podium finish, and I think that actually both he and the team would be delighted with that. Let's just sit back a moment and watch Michael Schumacher at work. Oh, and David is struggling with this car, and it looks as though it might actually all be over this time.
Yes, David Coulthard going to pull off track down at turn 4. The yellow flags are out as we wait to see one of the two Minardis make their pit stop.
Yeah, they are both running. They're one of the few teams that have got both their cars still running. You can see there at turn number 3 as well, or turn 4 really, that David has come to a stop. Alex Young, though, and Mark Webber still both running for Minardi. In fact, they're both in possible point-scoring positions.
You'd have thought David could have pulled the car off rather than doing that. I mean, having the track marshals go out on track, it is a yellow flag zone, so the car now getting pushed to safety. I suppose possibly with so few cars on the track, it maybe mightn't have been such a big issue, but I hate seeing a car static on a racetrack when there's an active circuit in use.
36 laps have been completed then, and here comes Michael Schumacher. He'll just about to be going past the stricken McLaren of David Coulthard, and there it is, just to the left from that onboard camera. Irvine comes through safely as well, but it is all over for the Scotsman, and that is a great shame.
And David is putting the steering wheel back on. That is also a finable offence if you don't do so. But now the Williams team getting into the pit lane as we see Mark Webber come in for his one and only stop of the day.
Well, let's hope that they get this under control. Mark's certainly doing a good job of stopping it in the right place. There is a little bit of a delay though here, John. Something has gone wrong. I think it's, well, I can't quite see what the problem is. I think it's with the fuel flap or something like that. A very strange looking problem. Everyone looking very concerned, trying to sort it out. The fuel is going on board now, I think. They've got it cleanly done, and eventually Mark's able to get away. Is he? Yes, he is. Oh dear, that was not what he needed at all. And poor Mark Webber losing a huge amount of time in the pit lane.
And in the pit lane now is also Jacques Villeneuve. He's been talking to the reporters and did confirm, Ben, as you suspected correctly, that there was a rear wing failure. The wing came off. That threw Jacques Villeneuve into that spin and harmlessly came to a halt. And well, Jacques takes it very much in his stride. He's been there before, hasn't he?
He has been there before, but you know, it shouldn't happen. Somebody coming into the pits there.
But Ben, just while we're talking, Raikkonen has done the quickest time. Juan Pablo Montoya, but Raikkonen suddenly is the quickest lap of the day. He won 28.541. Suddenly, somebody's knocked him on the head and said, "Sunshine, wake up! You've got a job to do." Now
Montoya got very sideways coming into the pits in his anxiety to be as quick as possible. A good stop, 10.1 seconds, and Montoya's on his way.
Fresh tyres, enough fuel for race distance. Remember to stay to the right of that. Don't cross that line, because that'll be again an offence. But I don't know what's Kimi Raikkonen suddenly done.
So 84 litres put in and fueled for 20 laps. Well, that should give him just the right amount of fuel to get to the end of this 58-lap event. And they'll be keeping a close eye on that fuel consumption. It's Ferrari that we'll be watching now. 28.541, as you said, for Kimi Raikkonen. Great lap from the McLaren driver.
But why? Why suddenly do a lap like that as Michael Schumacher now makes his one and only, oops, I was going to say trip onto the grass, trip into the pit lane. Michael practices this all the time. He maximises, and the McLaren also now laying out for Kimi Raikkonen. But Michael Schumacher, through practice particularly, maximises every fraction of a second on the entry into a circuit, into the pit lane. You can't do anything until you get to the pit lane exit before you get back on the throttle. 10.1 seconds was the time for Montoya. Let's see Ferrari, notoriously quick in the pit lane.
And under no pressure, really, are they? Away they go, 10.5 seconds.
4/10 doesn't really matter. Kimi Raikkonen now makes his way down. Somebody's going to say someday that is not Kimi Raikkonen. So like Mika Häkkinen.
It is so like Mika Häkkinen. It is amazing to watch the transformation, the results so far.
From the front brakes, blue smoke coming off the front brakes. 10.3, well, 10.6, the slight hesitation just as the car came off the jacks. Eddie Irvine makes his way out as well.
Now, where is Montoya? There is Montoya, and this could be a change, but Montoya with tyres warmed up, and Raikkonen's gone wide.
He's lost it.
oh dear, he was aware, I'm sure, that Montoya was coming.
He was aware, and I was aware as well, and I knew that he was on the wrong part of the track to try and take the corner at the speed he was carrying. The inside of the track, of course, still dirty and green. Montoya on the right-hand side on the left-hand side of the track, on the racing line, and he had the advantage. Kimi made a fundamental error. He'll learn. I don't think you see him make that one again in the future.
But that's all. Oh.
Very wide on the exit of 5. Hey, look, watch and see what happens. He's got too much speed. The back end under braking slips away. He's got no choice but to go across the grass, and he just thinks, oh, I had second place and I've just blown it.
I don't think he really had it, though. He didn't have quite enough of an edge over Montoya. Even if he'd made it through 1 and 2, I think the momentum would have carried Montoya.
Believe me, the Iceman would have made life difficult for Juan Pablo Montoya. Mark Webber.
No, this is Alex Young, isn't it? His teammate now coming into the pits, the Malaysian driver. And, well, he's doing a good job so far. He finished one of the 3 races he entered last year. That was down in 16th. Ooh, Alex.
Libertad.
Sounded like he wasn't in first gear getting away there.
Okay, you P6.
Unbelievable. Both Minardis in the points, 5th and 6th. If they retain those 2 positions, they'll walk away from here with 3 points.
3 points, and how valuable is that, John, in terms of, we never know how all the finances of Formula One work in detail, but that's going to be very valuable indeed to a small team.
I guarantee you one thing, Paul Stoddard on the pit lane is working it out right now.
I'm sure he is. He's got his calculator down there, and it'll make a huge difference to a small team like that to score points at the start of the season. But here's the man who we've got so used to scoring maximum points time after time after time. 53 wins to his credit already, breaking records every season now, and looking to start this season in the best possible way.
Montoya putting another lap on Mika Salo behind Mark Webber, so that battle between Webber, Salo currently in 7th place. He's 2 laps down. Webber in 5th place, 1 lap down.
You know, Webber lost all that time in the pits, John, but he has maintained that 5th position, so that's good news for him, because he was sitting in that pit lane for a long time.
Yes, he was, but also he's 22 seconds ahead of his teammate Alex Young, so there isn't going to be any pressure. But as Kimi Raikkonen comes up and passes Mark Webber, this time Webber backs off, lets Raikkonen go through. There is a rule that if you go past 3 blue flag stations, you will be brought in.
Webber in his first ever Grand Prix, perhaps feeling the strain at some point as we go through the latter stages of this race. But of course, Mark did an awful lot of testing for Benetton last year, didn't he, John? And I don't think that he's really going to be in any difficulty fitness-wise in this race.
No, and he's been through a very extreme fitness training course over the winter time with, in fact, because he was with Benetton Knee Renault today, he's had use of the facilities at Enstone. So he's had pretty scientific physical training, and well, he rode from John O'Groats to Land's End on a bicycle. Didn't quite do it in a day, it took him 10 days, but nonetheless a pretty fine achievement, and it was done for charity as well.
Well, that's great news. Paul Stoddart there, keeping an eye on the progress of his 2 cars. And, well, it's the only team boss who's got 2 cars still running in this race. It's quite an achievement.
But Ben, let's get into the realms of speculation, because Kimi Raikkonen, remember, made a pit stop early at the end of the first lap because he had a damaged nose. What would have happened if Raikkonen hadn't had that damaged nose? Would he be ahead of Montoya, or would the situation still essentially remain the same?
Yeah, it's a good point, John. He was involved with a little bit of damage in that first lap accident, and it could have been a different story.
Well, that's as much emotion you're going to see in Ron Dennis's face as David Coulthard explains what went wrong. The first one where he locked a brake, I have to think was down to the driver, but the remaining 2, I would say, were purely mechanically responsible.
On board with Kimi here, and things seem to be going well for him at the moment. And of course, we saw that fastest lap from Kimi Raikkonen just before the pit stop. Well, that has been eclipsed slightly now, but a very impressive lap it was. The question is, of course, can he maintain that sort of pace throughout a race? That's what Michael Schumacher always does.
Yes, it is, and it's that consistency that has enabled Schumacher to be statistically the most successful driver in Formula One history, and could go on to be considered the greatest ever. And if he keeps winning races and winning championships, who's to deny him that title?
Yeah, well, that's the big question. You have to say that on today's performances, it looks like Ferrari do have the edge over Williams BMW, certainly here in Melbourne. It may be a different story elsewhere.
And Raikkonen getting so wide coming out of turn 5. That curb, if you drop a wheel off it onto the grass, you will turn sharp right, and that will be the end of your race. And you'll probably have a pair of sore knees as well.
There's Montoya just lapping Irvine. Montoya still running in second place, remember, and the gap between our top two, Michael Schumacher and Montoya, up to 24.7 seconds. And then the gap between Montoya and Raikkonen, as you can see on the split, 3.3.
Ben, let's think back when we saw Raikkonen come into the pitch. There was something about the seatbelts. There was something bothering him. I wonder, whatever that problem is, was it not rectified? And in fact, is that what's causing him problems, such as maybe his seatbelts are not as tightly secured as they need to be? Maybe he's not as comfortable in the seat. There's something certainly enabled him to do one very quick lap, but he hasn't been able to push as hard consistently to match that one very fast lap.
Well, see the correction mid-corner there. There's great view from the onboard camera. He's on the start-finish straight, if you're wondering whereabouts on the track he is. Let's watch him through the first two corners. Quick glance in the mirror as he heads down towards turn 3.
And that's nearly 180 miles an hour before he gets on the brakes. Very late to turn into turn 3.
The sound of that Mercedes V10 engine working very hard indeed. The automatic gearbox, those crisp gear changes up and down through the box. The sight and the sound of Formula One.
Well, Eddie Irvine makes his way around. He's one lap down, but he must be a happy man as well. The thought of 3 points in his first Grand Prix in a car which couldn't qualify higher than 19th will bring some compensation to the hard work everybody in Jaguar, and those guys have been on their knees trying to get a car just to be in a Grand Prix, let alone to be competitive. Alex Young gets it all wrong down at turn 3,
but he gets away with it. That's good news.
Stays in the points.
Two Minardis are still there for the moment.
In fact, he's not. He's dropped out. Mika Salo has now taken that 6th place away from Alex Young.
Now that means that Toyota now possibly with a chance of scoring points on their debut. Now that would be one big story indeed. Mika Salo, the remaining Toyota driver in this race. Toyota spending all of last year testing. Mika Salo and Alan McNish doing lots of hard work, thousands of kilometres of testing. And now Salo's got the car up into 6th position.
Well, I think it's very worrying for everybody in Formula One that Toyota can come in. They've done it in a low-key manner, but they can run relatively competitively. We've seen reliability, very strong reliability from the Toyota team. And if this is what they're doing at the beginning of their Formula One term, well, give them time. They're going to be challenging these people. Ferrari, give it 3 years, watch and see.
Well, it'll be fascinating to watch the progress of Toyota, run by Ove Anderson. And of course, like Ferrari, they not only build the engine, they build the chassis, they do the whole thing at their base in Cologne. They're not in the UK, which is often thought to be the centre of race car manufacturing. It is the centre of race car manufacturing, but they've decided to make their base in Cologne, and Toyota trying to take on Ferrari at their own game, building the whole car, all the equipment, and going racing.
I think one of the reasons they chose not to come to the UK is because there is a sort of a little cartel of Formula One teams in the United Kingdom based around the Thames Valley, and McLaren, of course, down in Woking and Surrey. And they wanted to build a team that was not going to have people sort of flitting from team to team to team to team. They chose to do something quite different. Some drivers criticise them for doing it. Well, that's the sort of decision that they make. They have not made a mistake in doing so. They've got a fine team of engineers, mechanics, and the driver's not done a bad job either.
No, Mika Salo is the driver, and of course he has plenty of Grand Prix experience. He didn't race during the 2001 season, as he spent that time testing for Toyota, but he made his debut way back in 1994 at Suzuka, driving for Lotus, and then went on to race for the Tyrrell team for several seasons, raced with Arrows, with BAR, stood in at Ferrari for a few races in 1999, and then drove for the Sauber team in 2000. Lots of experience for Mika Salo.
But let's just put this into perspective. Mika Salo lapping 1 minute 35.0. Michael Schumacher lapping in 1:30.3, 4.7 seconds. And that is a bunch of time.
It is indeed. Ove Anderson was the man in the middle there, the boss of the Toyota outfit. Comes from the world of rallying and ran the very successful Toyota Rally team. Now running Formula 1 as Eddie Irvine makes his pit stop. Sorry, Pedro de la Rosa coming? Yes, sorry.
Yes, it is. De La Rosa's in. Is in for his second pit stop. So whether it was a problem or whether it was a strategy, Jaguar may well have chosen to do something a little bit different, because when you're so far down the grid, you might as well have a go. It's the only way you're going to get up through the field. But of course, with what took place on the opening lap, that whole strategy was completely thrown out the door.
I have to say, I have to apologise to Jaguar, because I've been saying that Minardi is the only ones running two cars. Of course, De La Rosa's still going. He's been struggling. They have got a problem with that car, but they've still got the two Jags out there. They are both still running. He's down in 8th position, so my apologies to Jaguar. You've got your two cars there just like Minardi.
Yes, unfortunately for Pedro, he's 5 laps down. And he's 2 laps down at Alex Young, who's in 7th place. So Pedro de la Rosa, he's staying out. You never know what happens. It can be last-minute reliability problems, driver fatigue, driver errors. You've got to, if you can hang in, do so, because you still can pick up points. And these flyaway races, the ones that are outside of the European continent, are always, and in the early season ones particularly, they're there. Points are up for grabs. Once you get into Europe, people get into the rhythm and stride. It becomes very difficult to beat the top 3 teams to get any points at all.
John, look, the sun's coming out at last. You know, the colours change completely here in Australia. It's so fantastic to see. This is more like it. This is the Melbourne we know and love. The sunshine, the colours, the heat haze are really beginning to show. That's what we're used to, and it's great to see it now.
Well, there are 12 laps to go. Michael Schumacher, having completed 46, starting his 47th lap.
Ferrari team keeping a close eye on those monitors, a whole bank of monitors to keep an eye on times, on track position, and of course back in the garage, a host of computers as well to monitor everything that's going on in the car, in the engine, in the systems that are now such an important part of the performance of a modern Formula 1 car. Our second place man is Juan Pablo Montoya, just going through the picture. Third, there he is, Kimi Räikkönen, certainly stepping into Mika Häkkinen's shoes well. And that was, well, I don't think Mika Häkkinen would have done that with 12 laps to go, I have to say.
But Kimi Räikkönen's running at this point on this last lap about 0.7 to 0.8 of a second quicker than Juan Pablo Montoya. Maybe Montoya's had a little bit of a dream and a bit of a sleep. 31.7 the last lap. Montoya 30.652 for Räikkönen. So Räikkönen again on a charge, and I just wonder whether it is to do with that situation we saw with the seatbelt, something in the car he was uncomfortable with. Maybe it is fatigue, a combination of factors. Maybe it's just something with the car, temperature related.
Let's take a look at this. Was where he made a mistake just now.
Yeah, he came into the corner, over around the corner, had to correct, got it all sorted out. I mean, the guy's got reactions. Look at that. He doesn't mind letting the back of the car drift around. A lot of drivers are uncomfortable with that. Like all Finns I've seen in the racetrack, they like a car that is quite easy, loose in the rear, and they only want the front to be stuck. They'll deal with the back their own way.
Yeah, certainly great reactions, great car control from Kimi Räikkönen, and maintaining the honour of Finnish drivers in Formula 1. Of course, Mika Salo, the other Finn in this race, with plenty more experience than Räikkönen, and driving for the Toyota team. But Räikkönen, let's watch this next lap. The gap between Montoya and Kimi, 4.8 seconds last time around, but Montoya's put in a better lap this time.
He's picked up the pace, 30.9. Räikkönen 32 points, so lost a bunch of time because of that error in turn 1. All that hard work to claw back half a second here, 0.2 there. It's all been blown by just being over exuberant into turn 1. Can you blame him? He's only a kid.
Exactly. He's just starting his second season of Formula 1 racing, and he's only 22 years old, and there's a long career ahead of him. Taking a look here, and Mark Webber still running in 5th position in the Minardi. Possible 2 points to him on his debut.
Well, Mark Webber is not running very quickly. That was a 1:37.4. Mika Salo, who's 16.3 seconds behind him, took, well, 4 seconds on that last lap out. Salo's picked up his pace. He's going for the challenge to Mark Webber for 5th place. And at the pace that he's running down Mark Webber, there are stacks of laps. We've got 11 laps of this race remaining. So Mark Webber under pressure.
Oh, that's going to
Mika Salo.
Yeah, that's going to give us something to watch over the remaining 10 laps of this race, and the fans will be on the edge of their seats as they will Mark Webber through to the checkered flag. Still some 30 miles to go, and you never know what's going to happen. He's pushing harder though, so the message is getting through. You can see the back end of the car moving around as Mark determined to maintain the gap over Mika Salo.
But it is soul destroying. He'll come past and see the times he gets on his board this time will be the times from his previous time through. If he's picked up the pace, we'll have a look and see. It was a 37 for his last lap, 35.1. He's picked up over 2 seconds. That's enough to stall Mika Salo, who was running in the 135s himself.
Following him across the line there, but in fact ahead of him on the road is Eddie Irvine, running in 4th position. He's a lap down on race leader Michael Schumacher, but he's keeping it all together, making no mistakes, all under control for Eddie Irvine, and this would be such a boost to the team. The last good result that Eddie had was that 3rd place in Monaco last year. That was a tremendous result. 4th position here today after the difficulties they've had over the winter. The testing performances, which have been so disappointing, will be such a boost to the team and to the men at Cosworth, the men and women at Cosworth, who've put so much effort into this engine.
Well, I think this is certainly a reward for the amount of hard work that has gone in to the Jaguar team based in Milton Keynes. And I mean, they produced this car. This was meant to be their definitive car. The R2, last year's car, was overweight, too high CFG, things like that. And then when they take it on the racetrack, they find it's little more than a dog. So new suspension components, new uprights, hubs. They've not done the work on the aerodynamics that they would like to do. They know the car is seriously lacking aerodynamically, but they've got this new wind tunnel facility in Bicester in Oxfordshire coming on stream very shortly indeed, and they just need to get in there like about a month ago.
Yeah, they had such a hard time trying to develop all the aerodynamics in the Californian wind tunnel, and now at least they'll have an opportunity to do their own wind tunnel testing and sort out the handling of this car. And Dave Stubbs on the right with Nicky Lauda on the left, the man who's now in charge of everything at Jaguar and keeping fingers and just about everything crossed, I should think.
Well, certainly Nicky will come away from here with the result. How he's achieved it is irrelevant. The fact is the car is running, it's in the points. And one man whose sister got news again from the pits, who's been probably the saddest man here this afternoon outside of Rubens Barrichello, is David Coulthard. And basically what he has said is that it has been a software problem that's affected him. And this one is not down to David, it's down to the electronics on the car.
Well, a great shame for David Coulthard, and certainly with the number of times that he was struggling to get through that turn 15, it became apparent it was some sort of mechanical problem, and David out of the race. Disappointing start to the season for him, and particularly with Kimi Raikkonen in shape here to get a very, very good 3rd position on his first race for the team.
But Ben, another guy, Mika Salo, really has gotten a wake-up call from the Toyota team. 132.8 in response to Mark Webber's 135. That gap is now down to 12.1 seconds. There's Mark Webber coming through turn 15 into turn 16. We'll wait and see what that gap is at the end of this lap. Mark Webber's last lap, 35.3. He needs to maintain or improve upon that. Mark Webber, 35.5, gone slower by 0.3 of a second. Mika Salo will be coming through very shortly. Wait to see what his times are. 9.4 seconds. Salo, 32.9. Toyota really want 5th place.
They do, and he gained nearly 3 seconds on this man, Mark Webber, on that last lap. So Mika Salo is closing. There is the gap as they went across start-finish line, 9.4 seconds, and gives you the distance as well, 542 metres. They'll be coming up to another checkpoint in a moment, and we'll get another look at that gap.
Well, that's Eddie Irvine, but coming just out of turn 5, we're ready to see Mika Salo. Here he is into turn 6, and with the number of laps, 4 laps remaining, it is not going to be a particular problem, I'm sure, for Salo to catch up, and I don't think even overtaking. I think the speed that Salo is now carrying will be more than sufficient to see his way past Mark Webber in his debut Grand Prix.
7 laps to go. Mika Salo closing on Mark Webber, and Toyota looking nervous as they wait to see if their man can really close up that gap. Tremendous debut, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Nothing like the sniff of another place towards the end of a race to give a driver that additional inspiration. You can, at times, not that the driver doesn't do it consciously, but you can sort of get into a rut, or we call it going to sleep in the trade. And maybe Mika Salo got the message from the pits. Maybe Mark Webber has got a problem. Mark is pushing as hard as he can in his Minardi. Mika Salo has discovered that he's got more pace in himself, but he's got the motivation to do it. That's what marks out drivers like Michael Schumacher. They've got that motivation 100% of the time.
Across the line, 6.9 seconds the gap between them. It is closing so rapidly, and Salo is flying in the Toyota, a car that had its aerodynamics developed largely at the Lola wind tunnel in the UK. So although, as we said, they're based in Cologne, still some involvement from the British racing car industry in that Toyota car, and Gustav Brunner, the designer, and he'll be very happy, but hoping that the reliability holds out as well. Here's our race leader, Michael Schumacher. It's been a very eventful start to the Grand Prix for him. It was an exciting battle that he had with Juan Pablo Montoya, but ever since he got past Montoya, John, it's been a cruise in the park.
Well, it has been a cruise in the park without doubt, but what has been, I thought, outstanding was the racing. The way the front runners went at it. I mean, that was proper motor racing. It was fantastic. I mean, there was no quarter given, and you've seen drivers like Montoya, Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Kimi Räikkönen, they're getting stuck in. They're not out here just to put on a show. They're out here to fight, to win, and it has been absolutely brilliant.
Well, the action that we saw in the early stages of this race, I think people will be talking about for many Grand Prix to come, and it has started off the season in fine style. The battle between Michael Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya hopefully will be a battle that goes throughout the season.
Mark Webber, Mika Salo, the second of those cars, gap down to 5.1 seconds. Salo's got to get a lap or pass Eddie Irvine. Irvine is a lap ahead of Salo. Now, I hope that Jaguar, bits of paper, I think, debris in the circuit, I hope that Jaguar make Irvine aware that Salo is not a challenge for a position and let him go. He's involved in a private battle with this man, Mark Webber, for that 5th place.
Yes, I expect he'll be made aware of that. Of course, Salo and Irvine, mates from the old days, racing in Japan. The two of them had a very successful time in their earlier days, racing in Japanese single-seater series before getting the break to move up into Formula One. But Salo being watched closely by his teammate Alan McNish, who so sadly was one of those punted out in the first corner accident. And Alan, such a part of the team, involved in all the testing, egging his teammate on.
And Mika Salo on lap 54 has produced his quickest first sector time of the race. He's produced his quickest time in the second sector on lap 54. He is absolutely focused, not on the back of the Jaguar. He's not concerned about Eddie Irvine. He's after Mark Webber, and he is hunting him down ruthlessly.
Webber we saw pushing very hard a moment ago, but he's got to play this carefully. Yes, he's got to push to try and stay ahead of Salo, but just the 1 point would still be so important to Minardi. He can't afford to throw it off the island now in his attempts to keep Salo behind.
So really it's down to Eddie Irvine. Is he going to make room, let Salo go past as they come down into turn 1, or is he going to slow down the momentum of Mika Salo? And it looks like Eddie Irvine, oh, I don't mind, it's nothing to do with me, you get past me if you're quick enough. But I hope Irvine lets him go through down into turn 3. Yes, he is. He's slowed back off. I suspect Salo will just slip down the inside. Oh, Eddie, come on, get out of the way.
Well, he hasn't slowed down enough, and Salo hasn't found a way past yet, and this is going to hurt him. Now, 53 laps have been completed, out of 58, 5 laps to go.
There should be a blue flag out. Irvine, you're not doing anybody any favours here. Look, let Salo go through. You're in 4th place. You've got your 3 points. You know, he can't maintain his momentum if he can't get to that level.
That's right, it seems a little strange. Perhaps now the opportunity for Salo to get up the inside. Yes, he does that cleanly and safely, and gets a round of applause from the Toyota pit. But is there time now to still close the gap?
You know, Salo was the man that gifted a victory at Hockenheim to Eddie Irvine in '99. I thought Eddie might have paid back that compliment a little bit more quickly than he did.
Salo with a bit more work to do then. 4.2 seconds, definitely losing some time behind Eddie Irvine, so he's got to push hard now to try and gain that little bit. Through each and every corner you can see how hard Mika Salo is trying. The car twitching around as he gets on the power, and now we look back from Mark Webber's car.
See the blue smoke off that tyre? He got heat. There's no traction control working in this. Minardi, he lit up that rear. Well, that's the left rear tyre right as we're looking at on camera.
And now he can begin to see Mika Salo in the mirrors. The clock ticks away, the gap just 3.8 seconds, 54 laps out of 58 completed.
And Mika Salo under braking into turn one. You could see the plumes of carbon dust coming out from within the wheel rim, just suddenly on the brakes being, oh, Mark Webber, you've lost time.
Big mistake there down at turn 3, very wide indeed, right off the throttle, and that's going to help Salo close up some more. Michael Schumacher, meanwhile, is heading for yet another win to add to his tally. It will be win number 54. He's already broken the record for numbers of victories in Grand Prix racing. He's going to add to his tally once again here this afternoon.
And Juan Pablo Montoya in second place, some 26.8 seconds behind. Think back to the earliest stages of this race, they were battling for the lead. Kimi Raikkonen in third place, a further 4.8 seconds behind Montoya, so the top three is settled results. It's only through unreliability or something unforeseen that we'd expect any change.
So for Michael Schumacher, it's a normal day at the office once again. The highest paid, the most highly respected racing driver in Formula One. 4 times he's won the World Championship, and he's chasing that 5th title this year. What a perfect start to the season for him. 10 points on offer if he can just make it through the next 2.5 laps.
And he's been grumpy pretty much all weekend. I've never seen him look so, that chin jutting out, touch of the Bruce Forsyth about him. But when he gets out of the car, you'll see the jump, the smile will be back. He will be one very, very happy world champion.
But look at Salo. He has caught up to the back of Mark Webber now. This is the battle for 5th position as the Toyota of Mika Salo on its debut, now looking to try and take 2 points away from Australia.
Ben, forget about the Melbourne Cup, the famous horse race that takes place in Melbourne in November. This is focusing the attention of the entire continent of Australia. Mark Webber fighting for 5th place in his first World Championship Grand Prix against Mika Salo and the Toyota, who's been taking lumps out of his lead or his position over the last 10 laps.
Gustav Brunner watching nervously from the pits to see whether his baby, his design, is going to be able to get past the Minardi. Well, he's going to have to do it pretty soon, and it looks as though that opportunity could come after this. Now, John, you were talking about the next corner coming up. Is a possible overtaking place?
Yes, I mean, he couldn't get inside him into turn 11. It's not a possible place to pass. He's not close enough here coming into turn 13. All he can do is position himself. It's too risky into 14. He's having a look. He's just distracting Mark Webber. Prepare to do your overtake as you exit out of 16, going across the start-finish line for one more lap into turn 1. But this will be the last lap.
Coming around.
Penultimate lap, I should say.
Coming around to complete lap number 57, these two. Across the line they go, and here comes Mika Salo. Is he going to make a move? No, he's not. Not into turn number 1.
Next chance is turn 3. Good exit from both drivers, both doing a great job. Salo, I think, has got the slight momentum, but again, the distance between the corner and where they are is so short. Salo doing what Montoya did, take the very wide line and loses it.
Oh, no!
I don't believe it.
He spun it, and has he got the engine running? Yes, he has, but... Oh, he's got it going, but he's lost any chance of taking that 5th position.
And the team are on the phones of Mika Salo said, take it easy. Australia's going ballistic. The 5th place, Mark Webber's fought and defended. Let's look again and see what happens. Down into the corner, Mika Salo, well, what can you say? At least the guy had a go.
He did have a go, but he just got onto the slippery stuff a little wide, little offline, and it just shows you how much on the limit these guys are.
Again, this is what Montoya was doing. He was staying very out far to the left, turns in, but that's green, Mika. Montoya found that out twice. You needed to find it out once to, well, rob you, let's say, of that 5th place. But what a well-deserved drive. Mark Webber's done a stunning job here this afternoon for his team, for Australia and for himself.
But what about this man? Michael Schumacher is heading around to take victory in Australia in the first round of the Formula One World Championship. He's picking up from where he left off at the end of last season. In Japan, at Suzuka, he took the victory from pole position. Well, he didn't take pole position here in Australia, but he is going to take those all-important 10 maximum points, and the Ferrari fans are on their feet through the stands as Michael Schumacher comes through to take the first victory of 2002. Well, there is the delight for the German, and that 5th world title could not be started on a better foot than by taking the first win of the season. Here comes Montoya.
Well, Montoya certainly gave us some entertaining racing this afternoon. And, you know, when that car, the tyres get together, Michael Schumacher's going to have a massive fight on his hand for that title. 6 points to Montoya, 4 points to Kimi Raikkonen in his first drive for McLaren Mercedes-Benz. What a great result for the young Finn. And he can only get better and better. And where will it ever stop?
The 3 top teams of Formula One finishing in the top 3 places here, and that's good in terms of making things wide open as we go towards just the second round of the championship in a couple of weeks' time in Malaysia. Michael Schumacher starting perfectly, and Mark Webber, what a dream debut. Just get through the last few corners, Mark. I know the fans are waving, there must be so many distractions. Just focus on these last few corners to make an historic debut performance.
Well, when Mark Webber steps out of this car, I hope he hasn't got a girlfriend, because every woman in Australia will want to have a bit of Mark Webber tonight.
Here he comes through the last 2 corners now, turns 15 and 16, and what a cheer, what a reception Webber is receiving here. The efforts of Paul Stoddart with the tiny Minardi team brought to fruition on his debut by the 25-year-old Australian, who's raced in the UK, raced in Europe over the last few years, fought his way into Formula One.
Well done, everybody. Fantastic job. Well done.
Oh, that is just a dream to Mark Webber. Michael Schumacher might be the winner of today's race, but there is nobody happier than Mark Webber in 5th.
Well, there are 3 drivers today and 3 teams who've really got a fantastic result. Jaguar, Minardi and Toyota. No one would have expected anything like this. The top 3, well, nothing big surprise in that. But what a great day for the teams that were at the back end of the grid. And, well, it's a bonus, and they will remember this day long into this season.
There he is, Michael Schumacher, enjoying this victory lap, that fist still held aloft. And, well, we've seen that so often. Try and listen in on the radio if we can.
Well, we were trying to get a ship to shore to Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari pit, but a little bit of interference precluding that. But Michael, I promise you, look at that. I mean, there are more Italians here in Melbourne than I think there are in Milan, Turin or Rome.
A replay of Michael Schumacher crossing the line and taking the win here in Melbourne. The 2001 car came good for them, didn't it, John? What a great decision it was for Ferrari.
It was a very good decision, a very positive decision. And believe me, people like Ross Brawn and Michael Schumacher and other principal team members do not make those decisions lightly. They did something which was a certain calculated risk, but they knew pretty much that they had a car that was very, very competitive, be it last year's car with a few bits and pieces added into it and improved from this year's car.
And that just makes the other teams surely quake in their boots to see how fast Ferrari are with their old car. Just how fast will they be with the new car? Always an issue with getting the new car set up and reliability, but you have to say Ferrari are going to be tough to beat. But here's Montoya. He couldn't win today, but he did what he had to do. That's bring it home in 2nd place. He couldn't match the Ferrari, but he's got 6 points. And Kimi Raikkonen, his best ever Grand Prix finish in 3rd place here today.
And I tell you, those 2, Raikkonen and Montoya, are going to entertain us something this season. The pair of them are out-and-out racers. They're prepared to take risks, do things that sometimes when you get a bit older in your career you're not quite prepared to do. And there Michael decides just to do a little bit of a burnout, a couple of donuts, drives the car into the Parc Fermé, and watch his face, watch how he leaps out of the car. He is absolutely over the moon.
A great win for Michael Schumacher. And I want to see how the relationship is between him and Montoya. They would have enjoyed that race. It was a tough one, but they also know that each one will be the other's great rival throughout this season.
And Herbie Blash, Deputy Race Director for the FIA, waiting to take Michael up to the press conference, and Michael turns round and salutes the support he's had here throughout the weekend.
Mark Webber's still enjoying himself out on track on this slowing down lap. He's relishing it, going as slowly as possible so that he can soak it all up.
Well, your first Grand Prix, finish 5th, 2 points in the World Championship. I mean, it doesn't get any better.
Giving little burnouts as he comes down into the pits. And the flags are waving, and what a treat for the Australian fans. They turn up in huge numbers every year, John, but until this year, they haven't had one of their own to cheer about.
Not for a very long time, and the last time an Australian driver got any points, to my memory, was Alan Jones. And that was back in 1980 when Alan was in his World Championship year.
That's right, Alan Jones winning the title back in 1980. Took 12 wins in his career, racing between 1975 and 1981, and then making some returns in 83, 85, and the last time he raced was in 1986. But Mark Webber's the man now, and he knows it.
Well, I wonder who'll be in the front page of the Melbourne Age in the morning. I suspect it might be Michael Schumacher, but I suspect there will be a parallel photograph of this man, Mark Webber.
A glory day indeed for Melbourne and for Australia, as Mark Webber takes 2 points on his debut with Minardi, and with an Australian running that team. It is based in the UK nowadays, but a split between the UK and Italy. A lot of people working in the UK, but also in Faenza in Italy. A combination, Paul Stoddart bringing the whole thing together, and what a delight for him.
Ben, you're looking at this crowd, you'd think you're at Monza. The number of Ferrari flags on the circuit, in fact, it just is so reminiscent of what we've seen at Monza over many, many years, particularly when Ferrari have had a victory.
The results then: Michael Schumacher the winner from Juan Pablo Montoya, Kimi Raikkonen in third, Eddie Irvine for Jaguar in fourth, and what a great result that is. Mark Webber in fifth, Mika Salo taking the final point for Toyota. There's a story to each and every one of those. Alex Young and Pedro de la Rosa were classified but outside the points, and not classified, well, it's a long list: Coulthard, Villeneuve, Frentzen, Bernaldi, Takuma Sato, Jarno Trulli, Barrichello the pole sitter, and Ralf Schumacher, who had the accident at the start. Nick Heidfeld and Felipe Massa, the two Sauber drivers, also out of the race. Not many finished, but we still had a tremendous motor race.
There's one happy Michael Schumacher. I'm pleased to see that smile return to his face. When he's grumpy, he's miserable. Everything back to normal. Montoya and Raikkonen, faces we're going to see a lot more of in the next number of years.
The smile is definitely back now. the Italian national anthem as well for Ferrari, who celebrate yet another winner here in Australia. And that's 3 in a row for Michael Schumacher around the Albert Park circuit here in Melbourne.
Ben, something we haven't talked about, which is very important to Ferrari, apart from Michael Schumacher having to win, is of course in the Constructors' Championship. They start off with 10 points. Williams, BMW get 6, and McLaren, Mercedes-Benz get 4. But it's those valuable 10 points in the Constructors' Championship that man, Jean Todt, is as interested in as he is in Michael Schumacher's World Championship.
Definitely a very, very important battle. Ross Brawn keeping an eye on what's going on up there as Juan Pablo Montoya receives his trophy for second place, and he's certainly provided plenty of entertainment in today's race. He's shown once again what a racer he is. Give him a car that's just got a little more performance, and we're going to see a lot more. And Kimi Räikkönen, get used to this young man's face. We will see an awful lot more of it in the coming months of the 2002 season. Champagne time. First time that Kimi Räikkönen has had this privilege in Formula One.
And he's going to get a little lesson. He's going to be taught that spraying champagne is an art and a skill. Michael Schumacher has practiced in that as he's on the Grand Prix track, and he'll have it done. Kimi Räikkönen's neck, look. The worst thing, of course, you get that in your eyes after you've been driving for 58 laps around Melbourne. You're sweating and it sticks to your eyes. It is awful, but does it matter? First time in the podium, 4 points in the bin. Just you go for it, my son.
Well, there they are, the top 3 from the first Grand Prix of the season. Not a lot of contact there between Michael Schumacher and Juan Pablo Montoya. They know that each other, they are likely to be battling throughout this season. And that's what we're looking forward to. Schumacher, though, taking first blood here in Australia.
Well, very shortly they'll be into the press room, and we'll get a first-hand account of how Michael Schumacher saw the first corner incident, and then, of course, the battles that he had to deal with David Coulthard and Juan Pablo Montoya.
Of course, the race may have been very different if we hadn't had that first corner accident taking out so many, not only of fancied runners, but many of the strong midfield runners as well.